I received a pleasant surprise. I got a text from my now ex saying we're done and to expect papers, and I was working away 6 hours away from home, and so I left home or left work to go home and to see what was going on. And as I got home, which was 2 or 3 in the morning, all of her stuff was gone and all of our boys' stuff. I kind of had an inkling, but I wasn't expecting that, and to be hit so hard. When I was served papers, I was served with separation papers, divorce papers, and also I was an emergency order, and I had a restraining order put against me as well. So I couldn't be at our home even though she wasn't there. She had gone to a women's emergency shelter. I'm not a physical violent person. I will. I'm like anybody. I get upset if something happens. I might raise my voice a bit, and that's just normal. She's the type of person where she actually was physically violent, not just to me, but she was to our boys as well. And she could dish out the yelling right back at me as well. Fear of not knowing what was going to be going on, how she was going to be acting. She also lied a lot, which I always was in fear of. Was she telling me the truth, or was I being told a lie? Every time I had to be away, I didn't trust her with looking after the boys properly as well. So I was always in fear of that as well. When I wasn't around my boys, I feared for how they were being treated by her. Oh yeah, like she would be off doing her own thing. She'd like to knit, so she would go knitting and just leave the boys. And there was an instance where the boys were quite young and we were at my parents' place, and she was off knitting, talking on the phone, and she had the boys in the bathtub, and they were just little guys, and she just had them. She wasn't even watching them. And I wasn't there for that particular moment, but my mom was, so she had to step in and say, "Hey, you can't do that." Oh, I was just, I had so many things going through my mind. I didn't know if I was coming or going. Which at that time, my boys were very, very important to me. That's what was keeping me going, was my boys, and then they were gone. The things that I went through during that time that I had no contact with them, that was like the most hurtful thing ever in my life. Not knowing where they were, how they were, if they were okay. That first several hours, I shouldn't have even been driving, but I went, and my brother lived hour and a half away, and I drove to my brother's where he was at, and I was in shock. I was just in shock. Oh yeah, I knew that they all would be thinking badly of me. Everybody that family members and friends, they would all think bad of me. They'd all believe that it was true, that I was this horrible monster that I was made out to be. I did go to a lawyer. It was the day after it happened, or 2 days after it happened, I went to a lawyer. I was still in a state of mind of shock. I asked about the restraining order, and he basically told me there's nothing that you can do about it. I was in so much shock that I couldn't even do anything, pretty much. My sister also came to be with me, but I was at that point where I don't think anybody could actually really have helped me at that point, like family members, because I was in such a shock, depression, didn't know what to do state. And when it did actually all, the final come to the explosion point was after I actually got access to see my boys, and I had them for the weekend, and I was allowed to go back to the home just prior to that. So it was only a couple of days prior to that I was allowed to go to the home, and then I was allowed to have the boys. And after I had to take them back. It was really hard because they were crying and they wanted to stay with Dad, but I had to give them back. And it was like a loss again, having to see them go. And I also came across notes, personal journal notes of my ex that had some nasty stuff written in them. I found speeding tickets. I found receipts for stuff that she was buying and shipping it to her mom's place, so I didn't know about it. And a condom wrapper. And there's a couple other things that I had found. And all that stuff added together, and it was just like, I just wanted to die. I didn't have my boys. I didn't have my marriage, which wasn't a good marriage anyway. I lost everything. And I didn't have a job as well, because I worked for my in-laws at that time. So I had no job, no wife, no kids, and I felt pretty alone. Like I had nobody on my side because I was made out to be this monster. So I wanted to die. So I had a .22 rifle that I was restoring, and it had a bent barrel. So I sawed off the bent barrel part of it, so it would be a functional firing .22. And I was stuck trying to decide on if I should shoot myself in the head or try to shoot myself in the heart so that I would die quicker, so I wouldn't be wounded and be suffering and not able to finish myself off. And it was a good thing that I did have a family member that did call the RCMP because they felt that there was something wrong. And they showed up right before. They actually treated me pretty good at that point. They took me to the hospital so I could go get some help. They actually did at that point they did a really good job. I didn't feel like I was mistreated, or at that point I didn't feel like I was a criminal. I lucked out and had two nice men that took care of me. I went to Two Hills Hospital, and the head lady chose to send me to Panoka, which was going to be a better institute for me to go to, that they could help me a lot better. And I'm glad that that did happen. Was hospitalized in Panoka at the Alberta Hospital for just over 3 weeks. I felt a little bit more solid, a little bit more confident that I could actually fight for myself. And my sister came and picked me up and drove me back home. To walking through the door, and there was even more stuff taken from the house. So I was left with basically almost nothing. So while I was hospitalized, she and her family, or whoever, came to the house and took more stuff. They were aware that I was hospitalized, yes. And then that was used against me, that I was hospitalized. Then I wasn't fit to see the boys. She tried to pull that one and had her lawyer, she changed lawyers and had her lawyer kind of go along with that. So I started to fight back a bit, and I got help from a counselor that I was seeing. He got the head of Alberta Hospital to write a letter saying that there was no reason for me not to be able to be seeing my children. And that wasn't good enough for her and her lawyer. So I had to fight it, and I got so we could take it to court so I could see my boys. I did have a lawyer. It was the same lawyer that I had. And we got it so that I could see the boys again. But I had to take it to court. I speculate that it was pre-planned. Everything was pre-planned by her and her family in order to gain 100% control of a situation. Her family, and a lawyer. Who else knows the system better, right? In order to gain 100% control. I also found out at that time from my counselors that was the in thing to be done. That was just exploding, especially in that area too, of women that were falsely accusing men to gain the upper hand in a marriage that was not meant to be, so that they could have the total control. At first, yeah, I felt very alone, and I felt like it was really hard to get any help from anybody because I was deemed a monster. As soon as people heard I had a restraining order against me, it was just like they didn't want to help me because obviously I'm a bad person. Oh, here's another one of these guys that is a piece of shit and abuses. I think he just went along with it. He was also a younger lawyer as well, so he was just gonna go with it. The two boys were at that time 3 and 2, and she was 4 or 5 months pregnant when she left. And that also helped her with her thing because she was a pregnant, abused woman, and I was the monster. So she told me that she would let me know when I could see them again. And I just can't go and fight and spend the thousands of dollars that it takes to hire a lawyer, take time off work, do all these things, and I still gotta be able to pay the bills, pay child support, and eat, and live makes it pretty tough if you don't have money to fight. I've thought about that, taking it to civil court, and I've also thought about if there ever was a class action against the government for doing these orders they're doing these orders and stomping on human rights is what they're doing. Because I am guilty before I've been proven it, or I'm guilty and I have no way to prove that I'm innocent. I'm just automatically guilty. I was Mr. Mom for those children. I had to teach her how to take care of babies. I was experienced. I had many nephews and nieces while I was growing up that I got to learn how to be a dad before I even had children, which was really awesome. So I had to teach her how to do even the basics, changing a diaper, washing the baby, feeding the baby, everything. How to dress them. I had to show her how to do all of these things. The boys were daddy's boys as well, which she didn't like either. That upset her that the boys were such daddy's boys, and I knew it pissed her off. It made her jealous of me that I had such a good relationship with the boys, that I could take care of them. Like, I felt that that I had to, because she wasn't going to do it properly. I would like to find other guys that have gone through the same the same type of experiences where they've been falsely accused. I just haven't gotten to that point yet, but that's what I want to do. I want to get an organization and organize these guys so that we can actually do something to help change things.